Ahoy! The Love and War patch notes with the Ishtar release are out, and we have tons to cover. Not only do we have information about Ishtar herself, there's also a massive overhaul to Duel. There are tons and tons of item changes, and the whole new item tree, the whole Bauble tree with all of its earrings gets completely looked at, I would say at least. So let's begin with Ishtar and then go into the rest of this because it's a lot, and I will try and stay awake throughout all of it because it's super late here. So, beginning with Ishtar's passive right away. Mark of Vengeance, very, very cool and very interesting in my opinion. When Ishtar drops below 75% health, she marks the enemy that has most recently damaged her for 10 seconds, and then when she deals damage to that guard, she gets a basic attack buff, or when she deals damage with a basic attack, she gets an attack speed buff by 5% for 4 seconds, and this can stack up to 4 times. So you can get 20% extra attack speed if you hit an enemy guard that is marked 4 times with basic attacks. Also, if she kills that guard or receives an assist on that guard, she gets a movement speed buff by 20% on top of that for 5 seconds. So yeah, I think this is a really cool, unique mechanic, not completely overwhelming, but very nice for boxing, for trades, for playing aggressive, and that's, I think, how it's meant to be taken. Passive has a 20-second cooldown as well. The first ability is Imbue Arrows. This has 3 forms that we'll get to in a second, so we don't really need to read the passive. The duration of this effect itself is 5 seconds, mana cost 60 to 80, and the cooldown is 9 seconds. I'm guessing that the cooldown will only start after the duration is over, because otherwise it would be incredibly short. And the other little caveat of this one is that she cannot hit structures for the duration of it, because I think multiple of these attacks might actually be able to hit towers outside of range otherwise. So, the first one here is Strike Shot. Ishtar lobs bolts that explode in an area, dealing bonus damage. These shots may also be fired over walls, so not a normal line projectile, but rather you target a specific AoE place that you want to nuke with your Strike Shot. There's a little bit of bonus damage here, but it's only 8 to 30 per shot, which is not insane, but it is a bonus. But on the other hand, crit damage is reduced by 40%. So I guess this could be very interesting for wave clear as well. I don't know how much it will compete with the other options that you have here, but since it has some bonus damage and it's AoE, it could be maybe a very nice way to clear the archers quicker. That is something we'll have to find out. The second option is Spreadshot. Ishtar notches additional light arrows and fires 5 shots in a cone. Only the center arrow triggers basic attack item effects. So center arrow deals normal 100% damage, but the side arrows deal reduced damage like from 5 up to 10% of your basic attack damage. So really not much. I don't know if this is like some scaling reduction, because otherwise, like if it's just 10%, I don't see why you would ever use that over Strike Shot when it comes to clearing, for example. So maybe it's not meant for that, or yeah, but we'll have to see how exactly that feels, or how exactly this is to be interpreted. The third option is Storm Shot. She fires a quick long-range shots rather that deal reduced damage. These have an attack speed steroid along with them, 20 to 40%. This was something we found in the data mining. It originally affected allies as well, so that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Projectile speed is 120% and could be further enhanced by Griffonwing, I'm guessing, which we'll talk about later in this patch, which gets some interesting changes, and has a 20% damage reduction on the shot. So I think that's probably a worthwhile trade-off, especially when someone's running away and you're just trying to hit them at range. So there's definitely going to be some opportunities for that to be useful, I would say. Next we have Rolling Thunder. Ishtar calls down 4 strikes of lightning in a line, damaging enemies within their area. Ishtar may aim which direction these strikes travel. If an enemy is hit by more than 1 strike, they are mesmerized. So strike damage here, 40 to 120 plus 40% of your physical power. Not really that much, but if you hit them with all strikes, it's suddenly quite a lot. We're looking at 480 damage, and it would be 160 scaling, but that depends on if you're actually able to even do that with the movement of an enemy. The mesmerize is not very long, 0.75 seconds, mana cost 55 to 75, and 15 seconds cooldown. I have to see this ability, they haven't shown it on the patch notes yet, to know how good this could really be, and I have to test that out on PTR and stuff. Could be going like either direction, really. Like I said, really depends on how easy it is to hit multiple shots on an enemy. The next ability is Jolt. This is basically turning her into Menith Sa, because it's Neith escape and Medusa's escape in one ability. She charges forward, she draws her blades, I think this is supposed to mean. Charges forward, and then hits all enemies in her path. And if she hits an enemy guard, it stops on them, roots them for 1 second, so that's the Medusa part, and then she backflips off them. And when she's in the air, she fires her bow and an AoE shot on the ground and hits that guard that is already rooted. This shot can crit and can trigger a basic attack item effect, so it is very much like a basic attack. The charge itself does 80 to 240 damage, plus 60% of your physical power, so it's okay for clearing, but it's not like an insane clearing tool or anything. And the arrow does 20 to 60 damage, plus 110% of your physical basic attack power, so very much scaling of your basic attack. The root lasts for 1 second, mana cost is 60, and the cooldown is also 15 seconds. So we can see relatively long cooldowns here. I'm guessing because the first ability has such a short cooldown. From what I can tell, you are probably going to clear with a 2 with Rolling Thunder, because, well, the other one is an escape, and the other one is just a basic attack that can also help you clear in various ways, depending on how you transform it. So either the one or the two. And then we have the ultimate, Blades of Retribution. Ishtar becomes CC immune and summons 5 Swords of Light, firing them in a cone in front of her. This is what we already saw in the trailer, pretty much. Each sword damages and cripples enemies for 1.25 seconds. When the swords reach their destination, Ishtar may recall them to a location within 3 seconds. If an enemy is hit by both the initial fire and the recall, they are stunned for 1 second. And this, if you time it right, would like follow up on the cripple. Each sword hit after the first deals reduced damage, resetting before recalling. I'm not sure what like they mean by resetting before recalling, if it's like resetting the position or what is resetting here. Or no, actually this could just mean the damage reduction resets. So on the recall you still get full damage on the first hit, on the first return hit, and then the reduction applies again, hit by hit. That's probably what it means. The sword damage goes from 80 to 160, plus 45% of your physical power, so you want to try and hit more than one projectile. A single projectile doesn't really deal that much damage. But keep in mind, the return damage is also implied, so normally you would probably deal at least 320 damage, plus 90% scaling by hitting like that one arrow forward, one sword forward, and the return sword. And then you have damage reduction of 30% per sword, up to a maximum of 80%, so it goes down quite a lot if you hit all of them. Cripple for 1.25 seconds, stun for 1 second, mana cost 100, cooldown 90 seconds. This reminds me, in terms of visuals at least, and in terms of overall playstyle, of Irelia from League of Legends, who I used to play a lot way back in the day. Her kid's probably not even the same, but I kind of like this playstyle. I like this ultimate, so I'm a fan of that. I'm not so sure if I will like the two. It depends a lot on how it feels, how it's usable. I do think her kit overall is very aggressive, very damage focused, from the passive to every ability pretty much. The only safety she has really is in her Jolt, and that also works better when you use it offensively. And then Blade of Retribution has CC immunity, and that's it. So people were kind of like talking about, like, you know, how she's the cooler Neith. She may be the cooler Neith like in looks, but I think in playstyle she will be fairly different from Neith. Neith being a relatively straightforward, relatively safe hunter. I like what I'm seeing here so far, and I'm hoping that she doesn't release completely broken or underwhelming. Very, very hard to tell where she'll land, because I think she has a lot of raw damage in her kit, and that can often make a god feel very strong in the beginning. But the question is, how effectively are you able to apply that raw damage, and does it really feel that scary when you put pressure on her and she doesn't really have the best escape potential? So that's what a lot of the perception in the beginning will hinge on. But like I said, there's a lot of other cool stuff in this patch. especially the Duel stuff I really want to talk about. Here we have her skins, Mastery Skin and Ascended and Recolor and everything. We have quite a few other skins here as well. Very edgy Hades skin, I love it. Bun Hats, Hun Bats. God, that's hard to say. The community skin, the Black Ice requested skin. Looks very cool here as well. I'm not even going to say that name. I'm going to say that name. Cthulhu. We have Searing Seductress Sol. Doesn't even look like Sol, but hey. Fairy Dust Noir. Shadow Dancers Shiva. We have got Cuckoo Puffs Kukulkan. Very cool. Dapper Baron Samdi. We'll get to how to get that skin in a second. I don't really know what's up with this. Like, is this just going to be a recolor? Like, I don't understand. Well, we'll see. You'll have to watch the patch notes show to see that one. And then we have Bad Evil Discordia, which is Harley Quinn, I guess. And we have some more skins from the bonus update here. More edge again. Cryptid Death Anubis looks pretty cool though, not gonna lie. Cryonic Demon Ymir, Xeno Thrasher Fenrir, and Winter's Makoyi. Oh, that's also a nice one. Okay, we have the first part of the patch with Ishtar and the Odyssey event starting, and the Hades skin is tier 5 actually. Okay, the Crow of Torment Hades tier 5 skin, and the community celebration event which we'll get to, and then later on we have the more Odyssey content in the bonus update, the life form chest and frostbite chest, and more to come. I'm actually gonna scroll back up real quick just to see if we can see in the bigger version of this what the tier 5 entails here. Probably won't be able to tell like the whole thing. Okay, so basically he goes from, this is kind of like the Anubis concept, goes from like guy that sacrifices himself or whatever to summoning bigger monster version of himself. I suppose that's the style that we're going to see here. Him fusing with his crow. I like it. I think it's cool. Like I said, a lot of edge, but I like those type of skins. Okay, we have the Odyssey skins here. This is all the stuff that is available in week 1. You can see it all here. And then new ones in week 3. And then we have the community celebration event. So for 2 days, log in and play 1 game of Smite each day to earn your reward. Earn at least 6 of these rewards, and you will unlock the Dapper Baron Samdi skin. That's the one we just saw. I'm not quite sure why it looks the way it looks. There's a variety of rewards, loading screen boosters, even 200 gems, and community art that you can earn. Some jump stamps here from artists within the community. We have avatars. I really love the goose one here. And then also some global emotes. I think all of these honestly look very cool. So those will all be free as long as you play a game and log in. So that's very nice. Easy way to get them. And then we have SMITE Night. If you care about SMITE Night, pause the video here and look at what you're getting. That's it. We have the quality of life improvements. God avatars are back. They're bringing god avatars for newer gods, or like for gods that don't have a default art, I guess, or whatever, because they stopped them in season 3. And in order to get them, you don't have to buy them. You have to either play as the god, play allied with the god, or play against the god a total of 3 times. So you will unlock them inevitably. And that's like all of these here. Quite a few of the gods that came out later. And yeah, apparently we're getting more of those over time for those who are using default skin avatars. And then we have favorite prices for chests. So voice pack chests and Odyssey Soaring Isles cosmetics chests can now be bought with favor as well. Probably a lot once again, just in case you have too much favor. And there will be a lot more skins available for direct purchase, over 100, which I think is great because Smite has too many exclusive skins that are not accessible otherwise. We have a ton of bug fixes. The vast majority of them is minor stuff. So I'm just going to slowly scroll through them. If you want to This one is maybe a bit more important. In ranked, you can now match with someone within MMR range until you've played, like after you've played one match in Masters. For Masters play specifically, you would know. And the Obelisk Mana Chalices were providing unintended mana regeneration to teammates. That's fixed as well. And Sphinx Bauble's cooldown glitch. And then after all the guard changes or guard fixes here, there's also a little bit further down, Magi's Revenge had a very game-breaking bug that was also fixed as well. So those are probably like the bigger ones. And now, as promised, Duel. Duel gets 3 crucial changes. Duel will now use the Jade Corruption map, while Joust will continue to be on the Season 3 Chinese Joust map. And this was done upon demand from many Duel content creators, many Duel players, high-level Duel players. They generally, apparently, prefer the Jade Corruption map for Duel specifically, because Duel is a little bit more about objective play. And I completely understand that. I can completely see that perspective. I personally feel that the Chinese Joust map is nicer to look at, but feels better for Joust, but I wouldn't prefer it for Duel either. I feel like in Duel, having some more farm on the map in between, so you do your wave, you do some farm, and you decide when to fight and when's most effective for you, is something that is more beneficial. Whereas when in Joust, I just want to quickly bang heads with a few guys and then and then move on to the next game, because it's something that was just like, less people play Joust seriously than people play Duel seriously, which is already a small group. And also, all starter items and all starter item upgrades will now be banned in Duel. The reasoning being that basically there's always a broken starter in Duel, and that's the one that everyone builds, and they could like remove them one by one until there's only like a so underwhelming starter left that people will not even build the starter anyways, or they could just cut the cord and just take out starters and make people come up with builds without starters for Duel. And I think that's actually good and interesting, because it sets Duel apart more from other game modes. And Duel will no longer use non-conquest balance adjustments, setting it apart from all the other modes, because those are primarily for modes in which you're fighting like more 5v5 than in Conquest, and in Duel the opposite is true. So it doesn't really make sense to have changes in that direction. And at the moment, they don't want to do separate changes for Duel by itself. They think that the Conquest changes might just work for it. And I guess it's also because they don't want to invest too much time into Duel balance specifically. And Joust kind of gets like a benefit from that, being that all starter items will be re-enabled on Joust and ranked Joust, because they were never a problem there. Or mostly not. There were some times where there were also problems, but not as much a problem there compared to Duel. And yeah, now they can be put back in, and everything changes, because basically Duel and Joust are completely separate modes now, which I think was needed for a while. So I think those are great changes. I'm hoping that Duel players will enjoy the new version of Duel. I personally am more interested to actually try it, but I think finding a match in Australia in Duel is pretty much impossible. Now, another change comes back that was taken away from us in between. All support starter items can now be upgraded at level 15. Don't need to go through the names, it's all of them. That comes with something that offsets that, though, which we'll see in just a second. Or we'll see it a little bit later, maybe. Sphinx Bauble gets some adjustments, again, a minor rework, I would say. So decreased physical power from 55 to 45, decreased magical power from 80 to 70. This item no longer has any damage output debuff. It still has the healing decrease, though. Instead, this item now decreases your magical and physical protections by 15%. This applies to all protections, including base, items, auras, player buffs, and jungle buffs. So in other words, it just increases your damage taken by 15%, I'm assuming. No, maybe not. I'm not sure. Either way, you're going to take a lot more damage if you're equipping this. The idea is they want to make this more usable for mages and less useful for Guardians who benefit from the CC spam that they could do with it. So it's really more of a damage-focused item. I can see it potentially fulfilling that niche, but I think it's still a very rough trade-off. You're getting an item with relatively low power, 70 power, that's not insane by any standard compared to what you could be getting. And you are taking, or you're getting 10% cooldown reduction, but are taking 15% more damage, if I'm understanding the effect completely correctly, but around 15% damage at least. And I don't see that being an actually good trade-off most of the time. I could see that being like a fun trade-off, like that you play on a damaged guardian or on a spammy mage, but maybe there's like a niche for CC mages where this makes sense. Utility mages like ESET comes to mind, possibly. But it's a big question mark to me. I think there's better ways to get CDR that don't require you to take 15% more damage. Like if you can get Chronos Pendant, if you can get the Rod upgrade, I feel like that's usually going to be safer and it's going to be enough. But yeah, I still think the 60% was the sweet spot for this item, but I know people don't like it that much that way. I think the damage reduction, like the damage taken, probably should be 10% as well. If you're getting 10% cooldown reduction, I don't think you should be taking 15% more damage. I think it's too much, I think, but we'll see. I feel like there could also be some niche picks that will just always pick it up now. Then we have Griffonwing Earrings. This is wild. Gets this magical power increase from 60 to 70, whatever. This item no longer has any damage output debuff. None. Literally none. And I am concerned. Because I was talking about this when this item came out. I was talking about how we are very like much in a situation where this could easily end up going from either it's too bad to be bought or it's a must buy for everyone. It doesn't have another passive in that sense. You know, it doesn't apply execution or protection shred or whatever. Like DPS wise, there will still be better options. But the projectile speed, like I made a video. You can look back on my channel. I made a video measuring the projectile speed, and the projectile speed isn't that massive of an increase that I thought it was worth justifying the damage trade-off. But when there is no damage trade-off, then that is a fair bit of an increase to a pretty good increase for a very select few gods like Hachiman or Shibalanke, and maybe also Ishtar now because she has that other projectile speed thing. Well, like, okay, why would you not pick it up? Like, what have you got to lose? What item is that much better that you wouldn't consider it? I have a strong feeling that Griffonwing Earrings could now be used a lot. There is a possibility, I will say that it's not going to be used nearly as much on pro level. I could absolutely imagine that it's going to be used a lot on pro level, but I could imagine a scenario where the pros decide that, you know, we're hitting our basic attacks consistently enough, and for us the DPS loss that we would get for a slightly high chance of hitting a basic attack is not worth it when I could, you know, be going an item that gives me more DPS. But much like Hastened Fatalis used to be back in the day, like any lower level of player that's not like super confident in hitting all of their shots, I don't see any reason for them not to pick it up. Like I don't play Hunter well. I would pick it up every time I have to play Hunter. Like just straight up, it's no downside anymore. And I feel like there are a lot of people in that boat, and I feel like even up to high levels of play, you can still benefit a lot from this. Just having the projectiles hit a little bit faster. So yeah, I think this item did a huge 180 from when I first talked about it. Verdict is still out, but I think it's going to be very, very strong and potentially too strong now. Rose Spike Earrings, tier 2, gets its health increased, the HP 5 removed, and also gets 25 magical protections. 50 extra health or whatever, but 25 magical protections. Quite significant. And speaking of significant, Fae Blessed Hoops. Big. Increased health from 300 to 350. Okay, again, 50. Yeah, but 350 health on an item in a reasonable price range. Like, I think this is not much. I had a tab open to check that. Yeah, it's 2,200. SMITE wiki here. It's really not that expensive. The HP 5 is removed. It has 10% CDR now, and it has 60 magical protections. Like, this item has a lot. The passive is still very interesting for those who can use heals frequently enough to provide that shield. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like this is an item that is just loaded now. There are not that many gods that can use it well, but those who can just kind of get a buff over everywhere else. Like, I don't quite... I don't think the item was like that bad before that it needed these massive buffs all at once. I thought it needed some changes, but I think the stats were like jank and it was niche. But it's still niche. It's still just useful, or mostly useful for the gods that benefit from the passive, even though the raw stats on this item are actually pretty fat as well. But yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know what to say about this. It feels way too much to me. Like, why the CDR? Could have just started with the health and the... I mean, it's getting 60 magical protections from none at all. That is a lot. That is a lot. I cannot... That's like an extra item, basically. Yeah. Well. It's so much. They just like, how much can we put on this item at once? And then we have Manticore Spike. Removed the 30 HP 5. Removed 20% CCR. Added 40 physical and 40 magical protections. Increased the duration of the self-buff pickup from 5 seconds to 15 seconds. Increased the damage dealt from 3% to 4% of their max HP. Increased the damage dealt by the item owner from 6 to 8% of their max HP. Again, we need to look at this a little bit closer, right? Manticore Spikes, also 2,200 gold, very cheap. 350 health already, so that's pretty good. And then we have the HP 5 removed. We actually still have the MP 5. We now have 40 protections each, along with 350 health for 2,200. That's very high stats, once again. It doesn't get like CDR on top of that, at least. And the CCR being gone, yeah, that's a nerf, but I'd rather have the right defense, 100%. The effect itself also being amplified, but I do think what sets Manticore Spike and Fae Blessed Hoops apart is that Fae Blessed Hoops passive is very, very strong in a support style playstyle, whereas Manticore Spike is for an aggressive playstyle, but the stats are screaming tank, at least. Not necessarily support, but at least tank. So I could see this somehow being put into solo builds, maybe. I don't know. I feel like there's potential to somehow do that. And otherwise, maybe some niche support can pick this up, but I feel like it's something that this is actually an item that will annoy me from the perspective. This is what you will have to deal with when people who don't want to play support end up with support. They're gonna build this like every game because it gives them damage. But as a serious support, I still feel this is not exactly what you're gonna look for most of the time, at least. Yeah, that's my feeling so far. But the stats are still extremely high, like extremely strong overall in terms of base stats. So definitely, if there is ever a situation that would warrant it, maybe if your team is just completely incompetent and you just feel like you just have to damage as a support in late game, then maybe this is the way. Gonna be interesting. We have some changes to mage pen items primarily. And this is mostly price changes. So, Divine Ruin from 2,300 to 2,200. Spear of the Magus from 2550 to 2450. Spear of Desolation from 2600 to 2500. Rod of Tahuti gets its power buff from 120 to 135. The Calamitous Rod of Tahuti gets its power increased the same way, and Perfected Rod of Tahuti gets its same increase, but Perfected Rod of Tahuti now also affects your ultimate cooldown. And the passive internal cooldown is reduced from 10 seconds to 8 seconds. And I'm just like, they just making it the second Chronos Pendant at this point. Like, I don't know what else to say about it. Okay, yeah. I don't know why that's necessary. Like, I feel like there's a strange amount of cooldown reducing effects in Smite at the moment between items and relics and whatnot. It's just, I think we could have some more interesting game mechanics, but I've already talked about glyphs in great detail a few days ago, so if you want to hear me more ramblings about that, feel free to look up that video. I'll probably forget to link it here. And then we have Polynomicon, decreased the passive internal cooldown from 3 to 2 seconds. Honestly, good. Honestly, I feel like it's almost still too long. I feel like it would be nice if you could just combo it and just use it maybe like twice in a row and then apply the cooldown. And it's not really many guards that use Polynomicon effectively, so I really like how it works. Well, I guess at the end of the day, it's probably Cabrakan holding it back. If Cabrakan didn't exist, they might be able to buff it, but they're like, nah, you can't just do 1 and then 2 and then a basic attack and get Polynomicon twice throughout that. But hey, man can dream. Bamba's Hammer, Stardust passive, can now affect ultimate ability cooldowns again. Good. They gutted the item in other ways, so at least just get some cooldown reduction back. I don't know. I don't know if it's still like. No, it's a consideration sometimes to build it, I guess, but yeah. I'm not over that cooldown reduction being halved for no reason. Jolt's Wrath, increased physical power from 40 to 45. So they're saying that ability-based assassins need some buffs. That's why the next ones here are coming. Jolton's Cunning, same buff, and Jolton's Vigor, the same buff. Yeah, not much to say. Same with Brawler's Beatstick, power increased by 5 from 50 to 55. And Crusher from 40 to 45. So just an all-round flat increase there. It's the flat damage things that get tackled a little bit this patch, but all in such a like minor fashion that we'll just have to wait and see what happens with them. Though I think that Brawlers with 55 powers is pretty interesting. And then Titan's Bane has its cost decreased from 2,550 to 2,450, as well as having the passive internal cooldown reduced from 8 to 6 seconds. Pretty interesting in my opinion. Titan's Bane, like, sometimes falling a bit out of fashion in favor of other pen options. Might bring it back a little bit. I think it's especially the passive reduction here. Not bad. Not bad, at least. Then we have changes to Brawling. They're all the same. There's always an additional change, so we go through that after. So basically, all of these items, Shadow Steel Shuriken, Tainted Steel, Tainted Breastplate, and Tainted Amulet, all have their healing debuff reduced to 5 seconds, or yeah, these are all reductions. In some cases later it will also be increased. So the same is going to be applied to some guards as well. So every anti-heal in the game will consistently be 5 seconds in duration. Shadow Steel Shuriken gets 5% increase in attack speed for that to 25%. Tainted Steel gets this cost decreased from 650 to 600. Very nice as a starter item. So see what we can do with that. Tainted Breastplate gets this physical protection increased from 70 to 80. Also nice. And Tainted Amulet gets magical protection increased from 80 to 90. So they're both getting a little bit more beefy. I think that's sweet. It's a nice trade-off, honestly. Then we have the masks. Rangda's masks gets a buff that was very much needed. Decreased the physical power requirement from 325 to 275, from 65 to 55 per stack. This item now properly checks stacking items and item passives for power gained from them. And this item will no longer check god abilities for power gained. And I'll be honest, I think even now, this is very high. like 55 per stack, meaning you basically have to have a full power build still to get the effectiveness of this going, or have like something like Transcendence in there at least, like some very high power items in order to reach it. Like you're gonna be cutting it close pretty much every time if you are trying to build one defensive item, and well, most builds need a magi or something along those lines most of the time. Not always, but yeah, we'll see if that's going to be popular now. I doubt it. The next one, on the other hand, is a very interesting surprise to me. So, Luna's Mask is the same change that every other support item will get as well. It now provides 6 GP5 only if you're the lowest gold on the team, and that's what all the others will do as well. You're only getting extra gold as long as you're the lowest gold on the team, which prevents starter items from being stacked across the whole team, because you can no longer get the benefit on everyone. Only one person will get it. So that's why the starter items can be put to level 15 as well. For Luna's Mask specifically, the protection requirement is also reduced, my apologies, from 60 to 55 per stack. That surprises me, because I felt that compared to the power requirement, the protection requirement is relatively easy to fulfill, because there are so many items that have 2 types of protection anyway. So typically you get that relatively easily, plus a lot of items have more protections than other items have power. So yeah, not quite sure, but at the same time I'll take it. This item also properly checks stacking items and item passives for power gain from them, for protections gain from them properly, and it'll no longer check guard abilities. I felt that Lonos was actually pretty decent already, but I guess that was maybe more of a casual perspective. I know in competitive it wasn't favored as much. Buffing it a little bit more, why not? Maybe they'll push it in place where it wasn't used yet. But I'm a fan. Like, I think it's not going to break the item. It's not going to make it insanely better than it was before or anything. It's just maybe makes it a bit more accessible. I like that. Then we have Compassion. Gold also only applies to if you're the lowest gold on your team. And this item's passive aura no longer stacks with other players using the same item. Sentinel's Embrace also gets the same change. Sentinel's Boon, same change. All the gold always just applies to the lowest on your team. And that brings us to Guards. We have a lot of minor-ish changes. Nox, actually one of the bigger ones, I would say. Shadowlock increased base damage to minions from 70 to 230 to 80 to 260, and increased the minion damage magical power scaling from 50 to 60%. So a little bit more clear here and there. Should help her. But on the other hand, in non-conquest mode, she gets 10% longer non-ultimate cooldowns and 10% longer ultimate cooldown. Not entirely surprising. It's basically an arena nerf for her. But I do like her better, clear option there. Janos gets his base physical protections increased from 11.2 to 14, and Prowl level increased from 2.8 to 3. Along with that, Unstable Vortex gets its base damage increased from 100 to 360 to 110 to 370. Now, Janos has basically been underperforming for quite a while. Never really goes up in the charts all too much, as far as I'm aware. I am never a fan of damage increases on Unstable Vortex specifically, though, because I think that ability already hits like a truck. Now, I understand that that's somewhat of a necessity for Janos, because that is his main damaging ability that he doesn't have to use for utility, but it still feels very frustrating when this ability just takes like half your health at times, or even more. So yeah, double-edged sword. I'd rather have more damage than the ult, honestly, and then not have to worry about the vortex as much. Ragin gets some small buffs here, or one small buff. Increased base damage on Percussive Storm from 30 to 90 to 35 to 95 per shot. That means it goes from 120 to 360 to now 140 to 380 if you're looking across all 4 hits. Could push him back into the meta region. Never really needs much to come back, so who knows? Especially with some of the other items in this patch. Thoth gets a change to Dead Reckoning. Decrease the number of kills per stack for this from 30 to 20, so less kills required. Final Judgment at the same text. I think that's a bug. I'm assuming it's getting its own change, because I don't actually think that it has anything to do with the passive in itself. I think that's just the text from the passive accidentally copied. What does it say here? Increasing the early game damage of his ult. Yeah, okay. So this is actually a base damage increase on lower levels by who knows how much. Something that affects him at level 5. We will never know for sure. Skadi gets... and Thoth obviously also usually an underperforming guard, so again, not surprising. Skadi, Piercing Cold, increase the base damage from 90 to 290 to 90 to 310. That's gonna hurt. And Winter Scraps, increase the physical power scaling per tick from 5% to 7.5% on both Calder and Skadi Snowstorms. So that is increased from 40 to 60% scaling per snowstorm total. I never really felt that the tick damage from the ult was particularly threatening. I don't think that is massively going to change. Like 20% scaling is not that much across like in the bigger picture of things. But at the same time, like Skadi damage buffs are usually not the first thing I would look at with her. Not what I would prefer, because she already has a lot of damage, so can get very oppressive. Neath gets a decreased cooldown on Spirit Arrow from 15 to 13 seconds to now 13 seconds at all ranks. Pretty nice buff. And decrease the mana cost from 60 to 80 to 40 to 60. Not a massive change, but a nice one, a comfortable change, you know? Like a lot of the changes here are just comfortable changes. Guan Conviction, decreased cooldown from 14 to 13 seconds, and Warrior's Will, decreased cooldown from 14 to 13 seconds. I think these were like... I'm not sure this is a revert, but I have a feeling that they were increased at some point. Not sure anymore, but I think they used to be short and then got increased and now get reduced again. Set. Sandstorm. This ability now reduces damage from all sources instead of just physical damage by 10%. About time. And then decrease cooldown from 16 seconds to 15 seconds. It always annoyed me that for no reason at all, this specifically counted physical damage, which kind of just limited its aggression against certain characters for very little reason, other than because I just randomly decided that he's better against physical guards. So I think this being evened out is good. I like it. Aries had some nerfs before and now gets a partial revert here. Or like gets a revert here. Shackles increased the guard damage from 20 to 100 to 25 to 105 per tick. No Escape decreased the cooldown from 100 to 90 seconds. But in Non-Conquest increased the ultimate cooldown from 15% to 30%. So from 115 seconds to 117 seconds. This factors in. So basically the cooldown stays the same in Non-Conquest mode, because this factors in or like almost the same, 2 seconds. It factors in the decrease that you get in this very patch. That's why it's 30%. I was going to say, how does that add up? But it actually makes sense in that, if you look at it that way. Okay, fair enough. So, yeah. Conquest buff, otherwise pretty much the same. Get some extra damage outside of Conquest as well, actually. The Shackles. So, I like it. I like Aries being somewhat playable in Conquest, so I'm a fan. Cerberus, Spirit of Death, increased passive healing reduction aura from 25% to 30%. Soul Explosion increased base damage from 60 to 220 to 80 to 240. Stygian Torment decreased the cooldown from 100 to 90 seconds. I guess kind of in line with Aries. They have somewhat similar ultimates. There are actually quite a few buffs at once, but at the same time, I feel like Cerberus could use them, could work with them. It's not really like a super popular god, and I think he was pretty affected by the time to kill chain, just because he is more of an aggression guardian. Kumbhakana, Sleepy, increase the health and mana when he awakens from 25% to 35%. That is quite a fair bit when you consider that he is a tank. Decrease the cooldown from 240 to 180 seconds. Also quite a bit. That is 60 seconds. That's a full minute. And then, yeah, wow. No, this is crazy. Throwback, decrease the cooldown from 13 to 13, scaling down to 11 seconds. Also pretty nice for early pressure. Always annoying when you accidentally clear the minions for your ally, but hey. And then Epic Uppercut, increase the landing damage from 200 to 560 to 240 to 600. Pretty heavy buff there as well. Somebody really wants Kumbhakana to be viable. I like these changes, but I'm also a bit scared. So I'm a bit torn. Feeling like all of this together, pretty potent, I would say. And Terra, Force of Nature, decreased the cooldown from 13 to 11 seconds. And Monolith gets a revert. Increase the amount of hits it takes to destroy the Monolith from 3 to 5. And increase the shadow damage from 70 to 90, from 70 to 190 to 90 to 210. Also not the most popular at the moment, so I think those changes are okay. Those buffs are okay. Sylvanas gets a buff to Verdant Growth, increasing the root duration from 1.25 to 1.5 seconds. And Nature's Grasp decreased the cooldown from 18 to 14 seconds to 17 to 13 seconds. Nothing too crazy here, but both help a little bit. I think what's nice here is that Verdant Growth, having a slightly longer CC duration, makes it a little bit easier to follow it up with Nature's Grasp. So it's a nice combination of things here, basically. And then we have Bacchus. Bacchus actually getting some buffs here as well. So Belly Flop has its mana cost decreased from 70 to 90 to 60 to 80. And Belch of the Gods has damage added to lane minions. Like, oh god, how do I word this? Belch of the God deals extra damage per tick to lane minions. It's 3 per tick on the lowest rank and 7 per tick on the highest rank, which is 12 on the lowest rank in total and 28 on the highest rank in total. They could have just given us the total damage, but oh well. Increase the stun duration of the Belch from 1 to scaling up from 1.1 to 1.5 seconds. Very nice. Decrease the mana cost from 70 to 90 to 60 to 80. And increase the healing debuff duration from 4 to 5 seconds. Again, they're all 5 seconds now. I like those buffs. I'm always a big fan of Bacchus buffs. Bacchus on the meta is cool. Bacchus on the meta is fun. And I especially like the increased stun duration. Really requires the enemy a little more to pay attention to this CC now. Sometimes you could just kind of accept that you'll get stunned. Sobek, Sickening Strike. He increased the healing reduction debuff duration from 45 seconds. Same for Changa with Moonflower Dance. Same for Barbed Spear with Kukulin. Same for Medusa's Acid Spray. It's all the same. And then we have the voice actors. That is it. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you get notified of other upcoming videos. And I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you think about the patch notes? How you feel about them? Very, very long ones. Again, Aries has been doing that a lot lately. But yeah, I think overall a lot of good stuff in here. Yeah, it almost feels like like a mini mid-season patch or something. All right, thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you for the next one soon. Duke SLOTH out.